Hello everyone, I hope you all are well and safe, and I welcome you to week 3 lecture 5 of CSE 1 OF. In today's lecture we are going to cover selection statements, Java's if statement and boolean expressions. Now whenever any Java program will execute, or let's say any other program will execute, there are three basic ways that the program will know on what to execute next, and this is known as control structure. So there are three types of control structure, and first type is sequence. So this one is by default, and the instructions will be executed in the order they appear. So in the order that they are written, instructions will get executed in sequence. Next one is selection. So this is based on conditional execution. It will satisfy, if a condition will satisfy, then it will execute this set of instructions. And the third one is repetition, which means that there will be a repeated execution of a set of instructions, and the same line of code will get executed anywhere from 0 times to many times. Now this is the structure of sequence control structure, where the instructions will get executed as they appear in order. If it's of type selection, then it means that it depends on the condition. So if you see here, we have got a condition, and that condition can either be true or false. So depending on whether this condition is satisfying, the set of instructions will be executed. So if the condition is satisfied, then this instruction set will get executed. If it doesn't, then this instruction set will get executed. Next is if statement. So the Java if statement allows us to conditionally execute a statement. If the condition in the brackets is satisfied, or if it's true, then the next statement is executed. So here if you see, we have a if condition, and this is the condition that needs to be satisfied. If this condition is satisfied, then this statement will get executed. You should note that there is no semicolon after the if condition, because that's not the end of the statement. These two are together. So if this condition satisfies, then you need to execute this statement, and that's why there is no semicolon after if. Now this is the flow, that if condition will get executed if it satisfies. So if that condition is true, then this statement will execute it. If it's false, then these statements will be skipped if it's false, and any statement after this will get executed. So in this case, these statements will get executed. Now we can use opening and closing curly brackets to group statements together and conditionally execute them in a group. So for example, let's say you have if condition here. So if this condition satisfies, then this group of statements, which is between opening and closing curly bracket, will get executed. Yeah, please note the indentation. So it will be indented like this because it's a part of this if. Now, even when we only have one statement to execute, in the if statements, it's a good style to enclose it in brackets. So if you see this slide here, yeah, there was this only one statement, right? And we didn't use opening and closing brackets here, because if there is only one statement, you don't need to, but it's a good style if you use opening and closing round brackets, even if it's just one statement. So here, if time is less than 1400, which is the condition of your if that is true, then this statement will get executed. Now, let's say if we have more than one statement, of course we do need to have opening and curly brackets. If we have more than one statements to execute based on the if condition. So if my score is greater than your score, then you'll execute these two statements. So if the condition is true, then these two statements will get executed. Now there is one program which we need to have a look at. So this program calculates the cost of squash court booking. Courts normally cost 19.50 per hour, but for guild members it's half price. Now write a program that asks for the number of hours of booking and whether the hirer is a guild member and display the total cost. So in this program, we need to have two inputs from user. First one is the number of hours of the booking, that for how many hours they want to book the court, and second one is whether they are guild member or not. So these are the two inputs from user. Now step one is to understand the problem. So we do know that there will be two inputs from the user. One will be hours of booking and second one is whether they are guild member or not. So if you see at the input section here, you'll be able to see that the first one is hours of booking and second one is guild member status. Now, what will be inside the processing? So for what you'll write the program, or you need to process this input, right? So input hours of booking, input guild member status. Once you have these two information, then you need to calculate the total cost and you display the total cost, and the output will be the total cost. So if you see here, this is your output there. So this is your problem. You have got two inputs and you need to give one output, which is total cost. Now, in order to design the solution, first you need to think on how many inputs you have and what will be the variables that you'll need. So the first one is going to be number of hours, and you are taking it inside double, because let's say if I want to book the court for 1 hour 30 minutes, so in that case I will enter 1.5. If I want to book court for 2 hours and 30 minutes, then I might enter 2.5 in that case. So that's why the data type needs to be double. Second one is a guild member. So you are asking user whether they are guild member or not. So the answer is going to be in yes or no. So the data type is string there. And the third one that you need to declare a variable is of total cost, and the data type is going to be double, because that's the cost of booking. And if you see here, you will be able to see that the court normally costs 19.50 per hour, which is again a type of double. So that's the reason we have taken data type as double here. Now the steps for this is input hours of booking, input guild member status, calculate total cost and display total cost, and stop. That's the end of your program once you display the output. Now this is the code or implementation for what we have discussed in previous slides. So public class squash court booking, this is my file name and my class name as well. I have written a main method. And first thing is, I do know that my rate is fixed and it's going to be 19.50, and that's the reason I'm using a final keyword, because I know that rate is not going to change throughout the life of my program. Now we need to take input from user. So input user is entering how many hours they need to book the court, and also whether they are guild member or not. So in order to take input from user using keyboard, you need to declare a scanner. So we are declaring a scanner, and keyboard is of type scanner equals to new scanner system.in, because we want to take input from user. And whenever we are declaring a scanner, we know that it comes under util package. So you need to import that package here. So we are going import java.util.star. Otherwise, this line of code will give you an error saying undefined symbol. Now, just so that we know that all this process we are doing to book a squash court, we are just printing a message saying squash court booking here. So it will get printed as it is. And then I'm asking user to enter hours. So I'm saying system.out.print time in hours. So then I'm accepting whatever user is entering as a double and storing it inside hours. And then I'm asking user whether they are a guild member or not. So just type in yes or no. And then I'm taking it inside next and storing it inside a string. Why next and not next line? Because we do know that there is only going to be one word, either yes or no from user. So in that case, we can use next over next line. And then I'm storing it inside a string, which I've named as guild member. Now, next step was I need to calculate the total cost no matter what, whether they are a guild member or not. In both the cases, I need to calculate total cost. So I'm calculating my total cost here, saying whatever hours user has entered in this one, you multiply it by the rate, which was here, 19.50, and then to calculate the total cost. But now, before displaying the total cost to the user, you need to check whether they were guild member or not, because if they were guild member, then the requirement was they will get a discount and the price will be half, right? If they are not guild member, then the total cost will remain same. So that's where you will have a if condition. So what will be the condition and what will be the statement that you need to execute? So the condition here needs to be, you need to check whether they are guild member or not. And how you can find out is because you have stored that value inside guild member a variable, right? So you need to check if this guild member is yes or no. If it's yes, then you need to modify the total cost, because then it will be half price. So the condition here will be if guild member dot equals ignore case yes. So if they have given yes, then your total cost will be divided by 2, or you can say total cost equals to total cost times 0.5. So this one is the shorthand operator of total cost equals to total cost times 0.5. So once you find out the new cost for guild member, which will be half price, then your total cost, then you can print it out. Now, few things to note is if your guild member's status was yes, then it will go to this part. So then this if condition will be true, because we are checking here that if guild member dot equals ignore case yes. So if this condition is satisfied, then and then it will go inside the if condition and execute this statement. If this statement is false, then it will skip this part and it will straight away come from this part to this part and print out your total cost. So if the guild member, if they are not the guild member, then this will be skipped and this line of code will get executed. If they are guild member, then yes, it will go inside and it will execute this, and still this will get printed after it gets executed, this one. So that's the if condition in this particular example. Now, next we have one more problem to look into. So display the maximum of two numbers entered by the user. So you are asking user to enter two numbers and then you are finding the maximum out of it. Pseudocode that we have here is to ask input the number from users, and we will call it n1 and n2. So if n1 is greater than or equal to n2, that means n1 is maximum. Then we'll display the value of n1. And if n2 is greater than n1, then we'll display the value of n2. Now the solution for this pseudocode and for this example, where you need to find the maximum of two numbers, is going to be if your number 1 is greater than or equal to number 2, then you know that your number 1 is maximum. So in that case, you print out your number 1. If your number 2 is greater than number 1, then you know that number 2 is maximum and you print out that number. Now let's take an example and say that I have a n1 entered by user, which is 8, and I have a n2 which is entered by user, which is maybe 10, right? So now let's say if I am executing this program, it will check this first because it appears first in the line of codes, and it will check that if n1, which is 8, is greater than or equal to 10, the answer is no, so it won't go inside the if condition and it will skip this part. Then it will come to this part and see that if n2, which is 10, is greater than n1, which is 8, yes, this is right, so it will go inside the if condition and execute this line of code, which is system.out.println maximum plus, and then it will print out the value of n2. So the output will be maximum equals to 10. Now, another problem is read two numbers, then display the smaller number followed by the larger using if statements. So you need to use if statements and you need to compare the two numbers. But the display is you need to display the smaller number first and then the larger number. So the pseudocode will be, again you have two numbers n1 and n2 entered by user or already there. Then if n1 is less than or equal to n2, that means n1 is smaller, you need to display the smaller number first, which is n1, and then display larger number, which is n2. If the case is reversed, so let's say if n2 is less than n1, then you need to display the n2 first and then n1. So this 2 will be inside two different if conditions, and we'll see the implementation now. So input n1 and n2, asking user to input n1 and n2. If n1 is less than or equal to n2, print out n1 first because that's smallest, and then print out n2. If n1 is greater than n2, which means n2 is smaller, then print out smaller number, which is n2 first, and then n1. Now again, let's say if n1 is 10, and let's say if n2 is 6, right? So if n1, which is 10, is less than n2, which is 6, which is not correct because 10 is not less than 6, so this part will be skipped and it will come to this part and check that. So n1, which is 10, is greater than 6, so the condition is true. These two statements will get executed and you'll get output based on that. Now next up is if-else statement. So we can extend the if statement to execute a different statement or set of statements if the condition is false. So before we used two if statements to say that if a number is greater than another number, then print this. If another number is greater than the first one, then print this. So instead of that, we can extend the if statement to execute a different statement or set of statements. So for example here, if this condition is satisfied, then this statements will get executed, else this statement will get executed. So let's say if this condition is false, it will skip all this line of code and it will execute the else part. Now, as I mentioned, so this group of statements here will get executed if the condition is true, and this group of statement will get executed if the condition is false. So this is the diagram of if else. So before else, when we just had if statements, it was if the condition is true, then these statements would have got executed. If it was false, then this statement would have got executed. But now with if else, if the if condition is true, then the statements that gets executed is this one. If it's false, then the statements that get executed with this one. So it will skip this part and it will execute this one there. And then depending on whether it was true and false, the rest of the statements will get executed. Now the same problem, we are going to consider it again. So display the maximum of two numbers entered by the user. Firstly, we saw it using two if conditions. Now we'll see it using if else condition. So here user will input n1 and n2. So those are the two numbers, and then you need to find out maximum out of those. So if n1 is greater than or equal to n2, then n1 is maximum. So you'll display that. Else n2 is maximum. So you'll display that. So here the solution will be if n1 is greater than or equal to n2, then we know that n1 is maximum. So in that case, we'll print out n1. Else, there is only one case that n2 will be maximum. So we just go and say else n2 is maximum and we'll print that. So we don't need to write again the same condition here, right? Because we did it when we used just if condition. So we had if n1 is greater than or equal to n2, print this. If n2 is greater than n1, print this. So instead of writing two different conditions, we can use else, and this statement will get executed if this is not right. Now, is this code correct? So let's say here you have been given a code where it says if mark is greater than or equal to 50, then system.out.println and you passed, and then total passed plus plus, else you didn't pass and total failed plus plus. Now this line of code is not correct. Why? Because you see, if there are multiple lines after your if, you need to use opening and closing curly brackets. Okay, if you don't use opening and closing brackets, the only statement that will be considered is the first statement after if. Okay, and else, so when trying to execute else, it will say that there is no if for this else. Okay, so without the beginning and ending curly brackets, only the first line of code, as I mentioned, this line of code is associated with the if statement, and it will give you this error saying else without an if, because then else will be without an if, because you have one more statement before else which doesn't belong to this if. So if and else should be, it should be together. If this is the case, then it will give you an error saying else without an if. So how you can fix it is to have a opening and curly bracket here, so that now it's all part of if, and then you have else after if. So rewrite the code on the left as Java would see when it tries to compile the code. So the output is, the solution to that will be to use opening and closing curly bracket for each one of them, so that both of these statements is associated with if. Now, if else statement. So the condition of an if or if else statement must be a Boolean expression. So if you are using multiple ifs, or if you are using if else, the condition to if must be a Boolean expression. Okay, so that what that means is it must evaluate to a Boolean value. So it should result either in true or in false. As we saw that if else statement, it must evaluate to a Boolean value. We need to understand what relational operators are and what it will result in. So relational operators allows us to compare two values of primitive type. So the type should be primitive, because strings cannot be compared using the expressions that we are going to see. So the value of logical expression is either a true or false. So then whatever you write inside the condition should either evaluate to true or false, as in a Boolean type. So you can compare two primitive types. If you want to see that if they are equal, you need to use equal equals. If they are not equal to, it's not equals to. If one number, you want to check that if one number is greater than the other, the sign you use is this, the operator we use is greater than sign, and less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So these are few relational operators that we'll use while using if condition, so that our logical expression results in either true or false. Now, what is wrong with this? Okay, so the first one here, we are saying that if x is equals to 10, so as you can see, there is no 2 equals to sign. That means we are not comparing it. If we want to compare it, we need to use 2 equals to sign. Here what will happen is it will assign 10 to x, because just if you use just 1 equals to, that means it's an assignment operator and you are assigning 10 to x. So this one, first one, is not a valid Boolean expression, because then you are assigning 10 to x, and this whole won't result in a Boolean. Okay, so we need to have a Boolean here if we are using if condition. So this one will result into assigning 10 to x, and it will never give you a Boolean as an expression. So the error would be incompatible types, because what we found was integer, because x is treated as an integer because you are assigning 10 to x, but what we required was a Boolean. Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, single equals means assignment. This statement is setting the value of x to 10, and we need to use double equals to indicate if we want to compare x with 10. Now for this one, This is not a valid Boolean expression as well. Why? Because let's say it will start your execution from here. So it will check if 8 is less than x. Let's assume that x's value is 10. Okay. So if 8 is less than x, then this will give you answer as true. But then you are comparing true is less than 12. So you are comparing a boolean with an integer, which is not possible. Okay. So this is not a valid boolean expression as well. And the error you will get is operator less than cannot be applied to a boolean and an int, because if you see this side is going to be a boolean and this side is going to be an integer. So then it will give you an error, and it's not a valid boolean expression. So how we can, so let's say if I want to compare a range, let's say if I want to check whether x is greater than 8 and less than 12, then how we do it. Okay. So in order to do that, the solution is to use and. So what happens is, let's say if you want to check that some variable falls between two specified values, let's say if you want to check that x is greater than 8 but less than 12, then in order to do that you need to use and operator. Okay, so what it will do is it will check this first and say if 8 is less than 12, let's again assume that x's value is 10, so it is less than x, yes, so it will be true. And x is less than 12, so again it will be true, and this whole expression will result in true. Right. So this is called logical operator that you need to use if you want to compare a range. And few other logical operators that we have and we can use inside if is and operator, or is written like this, XOR and not. So these are the symbols and these are the operators. Now these three first one are binary operators because it will require two operands, and the last one not is a unary operator because it will require just one operand. So here if you see, we have got two operands, this and then and in between. So that's how they are binary operators. Now the truth tables to that, as in if there is two true, what will be the output in all of these cases? If there is one true, one false, what will be the output, and so on. So let's see that if both the operands are true, and if you are applying AND operator, then the output will be true. If any one of the operand is false, so this is false, this is false, and this is false. So if any one of the operand is false, then the output of AND operator will be false. So in all these cases, the output is false. Now let's consider OR operator. So if any one of the operator is true, the output is going to be true. If both is false, then the output will be false. So here you can see one operand is true, one operand is true, one operand is true. So if any one operand is true, then the output is going to be true for OR operator. Not is opposite of what you give. So if your operator is true, not of that operator will be false. If your operator is false, not of that operator will be true. And the last one is XOR, right? So in XOR, if both of your operands are same, then the output will be false. If both of your operands are not same, the output will be true. So here you can see that the both of your operands are true, so output is false. Here you can see that both of your operands are same, so the output is false. So if both of your operands are same, the output to it will be false. If anyone is different, then output will be true. So that's XOR operator. Now, precedence from highest to lowest. We won't be considering these at the moment because they are post increment and pre-increment, and post decrement pre-decrement. We'll see that later. We have already seen this. So in our, I think, second lecture, that multiplication and division have higher precedence over addition and subtraction. Now, if there is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, then they have higher precedence over equal equals to and not equals to. And when it comes to logical operators that we just saw, we need to consider that and has highest precedence, then or, and then not. So this is the precedence that you need to consider from highest to lowest. And then let's say if you encounter excuse me, let's say if you encounter the same thing with same precedence in an equation, then you need to check their associativity as well. So let's say there is an equation where you have multiplication and division together. In order to evaluate them, you need to check the associativity. So you need to go from left to right. Now, as mentioned previously in one of the slide, that we use equal equals to for primitive types only. So what does it mean when we say equal equals to with strings, right? So equal equals to with strings and with any other object, it does not evaluate the content of the string. Okay, so it's not comparing whether the content of the string 1 is equal to content of the string 2. No. Instead, what it's comparing is the memory location. So when you say that S1 is equals to S2, that means you are comparing two memory locations of that two strings and not actual content. So what do we do if we want to compare, or if we want to check for the equality of the strings? Then we test those strings using the methods called equals and equals ignore case. Remember lecture workshop 2 that we did last week. So in order to compare the content of string 1 and string 2, you need to either use equals or equals ignore case if you want to ignore the case. So in this case, S1 dot equals S2 will be false, because if you are just using equals, then they both are not same. This will be treated as lowercase and this will be treated as uppercase. But if you are using equals ignore case, it will ignore the case and it will result in true. So this is very important whenever you want to compare the strings, as in check the equality of the strings. You need to use methods of equals and equals ignore case, because equals to sign, it won't compare the contents, it will compare the memory locations of the string. Yeah, so now if you want to check ordering of the string, you know how we know that if two integers, if I want to check that if two integers are greater than or less than, etc. So if you want to check that, or if you want to compare it for the string, then you use compare to and compare to ignore case rather than the relational operator. So you are not going to say less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, but instead for strings, we'll be using compare to and compare to ignore case for comparing your strings. Because again, those relational operators are for primitive types and not for string. And this compare to and compare to ignore case was discussed in last week in lectures and in lecture workshop as well. Now we'll go through one of the class exercise. So it says write a Java program that reads in 2 lines from the keyboard and checks if they are same. So first what we need to do is we need to take input from user, so 2 lines, and then we need to check whether those 2 lines are same or not. So let's say line 1, user is entering Java for me, line 2 is again same Java for me, and you can see that they both are same. So we need to output that the lines are same. In the second run, you can see that your line 1 is not same as line 2, so they both are different, so you need to print the lines are different. Now what will be the inputs, processing and output for this? So the input will be 2 lines which you are taking from user, so line 1 and line 2. Processing is you need to compare them both, so you need to check the equality of them. So you will take input line 1, input line 2, compare the lines and display the comparison. So the output will be the comparison that you are displaying, so this line. So the output will be the comparison, same or different. Now designing a solution. So as we are comparing 2 strings, your line 1 and your line 2 will have data type of string. Once you take input from user in terms of line 1 and line 2, you need to have a if condition to check whether they are equal or not. If they both are same, then you print the lines are same, else you print the lines are different. Now we'll look into the Java solution implementation for this. So I have a class called same lines, so my file name will be same lines as well, and I need to take input from user, line 1 and line 2, so I'm declaring a scanner for that because I'm taking input from keyboard, and you need to import a package here before this. Okay, so you need to go import java.util.star here. Now you're asking user to enter line 1 and then accepting that line 1 inside a string called line 1. And now we are using next line because A, because we are accepting a string, B, because we want full line from the user and it will contain space. So you can't really use next there. So that's the reason we are using next line. Line 2, again, we are asking user to enter another line and accepting that and storing it inside variable line 2. Now we are checking that if line 1 dot equals line 2, if they both are same, then you need to print that the lines are same, else the lines are different. You can also replace this equals with equals ignore case if you want to ignore the case. In that case, even if it's a mixture of uppercase and lowercase, it will still print the same. Okay, so that ends our lecture 5, and next lecture, which is lecture 6 of week 3, will cover blocks and scope, nested if-else statement, multi-way branching statements, and the switch statements. Right, so the few things that we covered today was control structures. We saw 3 types of control structure. First was sequence, so all the instructions get executed just how they appear. Second was selection, so based on the condition the statements get executed. And third was repetition, so a code of block will get repeated multiple times. We saw if statement, so how we wrote multiple if statements. We saw how we can replace it with if else, and how the condition inside the if needs to be of type Boolean expression, so how they should evaluate to either true or false. And then we also saw some operators that we can use in order to achieve Boolean expression, and we did some exercise. I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and I'll see you in next lecture, which is lecture 6. Thank you.